Thank you for coming, everybody. My name is Andy Winter. I'm the General Manager of the Students' Union. For those who haven't met me before. What we're going to do today is we're going to run a very quick briefing session on what it means to be a sabbatical. And what we'll cover in this is actually what a sabbatical does, what being a sabbatical actually literally means, rather than not just how it feels to do the job, but what the term Sabbatical Officer means. And we'll also get you to think about what you think it is, and then compare that to reality of what it's like to actually do the job. And the current post holders will talk to you about their experiences of what it's like doing the job this year. To start off with, I'd just like to very quickly sort of say, what do people understand about being a sabbatical officer? What are people's knowledge generally of being a sabbatical officer? Any ideas? No? Okay. There's a couple of things that we actually mean by sabbatical, or SAB, as you'll hear it referred to. A sabbatical is a student who's elected by their peers. And what that means is that the student stands in an election and then it's voted on by all of the students at York St John. Every person who's a student at York St John can vote, so that includes international students, part-time students, it includes mature students. Just because you're not an 18 to 21-year-old white person who drinks in the union and plays sport, it doesn't mean that you can't vote in our election, although that is sometimes thought. It's important that people understand that actually students are the people who elect the next set of people who represent them to the university. Because that's key to what sabbatical officers do. No matter what their position is, whether it's President, Vice President Student Activities, or Vice President Education and Welfare, their role is to represent the views of students back to the university. And that's to represent the views of all students. I'll talk in a little bit about why you should run for a sabbatical course and why you shouldn't run for a sabbatical course. But the emphasis really is on this part. And what you have to think is, it's not about me. It's about actually all of those other students who don't have a voice in the university. How am I getting the information from them about how they're feeling about the university experience? And how am I giving that back to the university in a way that means that we can actually make something happen for them and improve their experience? They are the heads of the Students' Union, and what that means is that they are the people who the book ultimately stops with. I'm paid as General Manager to oversee the staffing side, to oversee the general running and make sure we don't have money and various other things, but actually sabbaticals are my boss. They are my line manager, and they direct the work that we do. What that means is that they set the agenda, so all of the strategic plan, all of the direction that we're going to head in is down to those three people. They sit as key trustees on our trustee board and scrutinise every aspect of the work that we do. So whilst I am in post and I also have a commercial services manager who looks after the bar, the shop and the coffee bar, ultimately his responsibility is to me, which is to the sabbaticals. And as I say, if the whole thing goes down and we end up in court, it will be the three sabbaticals who are in the dock. Probably followed by them counter-suing me, probably me for counter-suing whoever else I think is for. But they have the legal responsibility through the trustee board. I would say that's frankly because actually we have in place trustees' liability and indemnity insurance, and we have in place lots and lots of controls which would make sure that we won't do anything that will land us in court. But that's the ultimate things. They are the big I-arms. And the final part is that they are a politician and not a civil servant. And this is a very, very clear distinction to make. And I'm sure the two officers we have here today will talk about this when they tell them their impression. If you think about when a policy comes through in national government, David Cameron won't sit at home writing that policy. He will not have gathered all the information to actually put into that. He will have a team of civil servants who will work behind him to gather all that information, look at all the data, analyse it, and give it back to him. He will obviously have a hand in directing it, and it will be from what he hears from talking to business leaders or to the general public, that then gives the direction to do that, and he will shape it. If there's bits he doesn't like, he will come in. But he's not actually sitting there doing the work. He is out there talking to people, he's out there representing the stuff that they do. And it's very key that people understand that that's the same for our sabbaticals. The role should be a politician. It should be about talking to people, whether that's talking to students and finding out what their problems are, whether it's talking to students and telling them how they've solved their problems, whether it's talking to the university and actually getting those problems solved in the first place. That is their job. It is not the job of the sabbatical to, for instance, turn on the DJ booth, or work the door of the union, or stack the shelves in the shop. Yeah? These are jobs that staff do. And it's an important sort of line to draw, because sometimes that gets blurred, particularly, as I'm sure Jason will talk about, in the area of the Student Activities Officer. So that's that. Any questions so far on anything I've said? It's a very creaky floor. I hope this comes across on the video so you can't hear anything else. I wanted to show you this quote, which certain people will have seen before, and some people will be getting very bored of. But actually, it's fundamentally important for sabbaticals that people understand that this is what this is about. We talk about representation and students' opinion, yeah, and gathering the views of students, and that's all well and good. But actually, it's about taking that and doing something with it. So I'll give you an example. I was sat with the last Vice-Chancellor in a meeting last year, and we were talking about the impact report that we were going to do this year. And I was saying, oh, we're going to put in these details for these projects that we've delivered. We were talking about night marshals and various other things. She said, oh, you should mention how many hours you spend sat on committees. You should put that down. It's a really interesting fact. I said, well, that is quite an interesting fact, but it doesn't matter how many hours we're sitting on those committees if nothing comes of it. We could have hundreds of students sitting on committees all across the university, but if they sit there dumb and silent, actually, and nothing changes, then it was fundamentally pointless. And that's the role of the sabbatical. It's to gather that information and then turn it into some change that improves the lives of the students. Yeah? Is that clear? Is that what people think they're signing up for when they're running for sabbatical positions? I'm just going to quickly say a couple of bits, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go into kind of what do you think the job is, and then these guys are going to tell you what the job actually is. But this is just, first of all, I just wanted to sort of talk to people about motivations and think about why you might want to become a sabbatical officer. My role is to be politically independent. That is what I do as general manager. And I have to, a lot of the time, be very careful about where I'm standing and the advice that I'm giving and where people see my role in the organisation. I say these things not because I'm trying to discourage anyone from running, but because I want to make sure that anybody who's going to run for a sabbatical post does so with the best possible intentions and does so understanding their motivations. As the officers who've been elected will tell you, and those who haven't been elected will tell you, the election process itself is a terrible hard slog and is an experience in its own right. Once you then get elected, it's quite hard. So it's worth questioning, well, actually, do I want this? And if I do want it, why do I want it? So, very quickly, why should you become a sabbatical? Well, you should become a sabbatical if you want to change the lives of students, as I've said. You know, if you want to look at the things that they've not got right and make sure that they are right, you know, if you want to change the university for the better for them, based on their information and the feedback that they're giving you, then you should do that. You should run for a role that you actually want to do. And quite often what happens and what we hear is that certain people will run for certain positions, not because it's actually the thing that they're really interested in, but because it's the thing they think that they can win. They'll look at the other candidates around the table and think, you know, I'm not going to win that one, it's there too good. And they've got too many friends. I don't really know. And you're my friend, so I don't want to run against you. So I'll go for this one here, because that's the one that's left over. Don't do that. Because all of these positions, in the end, are jobs. Yeah? They're good jobs, they're really exciting jobs with incredible perks, but they are jobs. And if you don't have the internal motivation and the internal interest in that particular thing, when it actually comes down to it, on the day when you haven't slept, and you've got a call, and you were drunk the night before, and the university expects you to give a coherent response, you will just want to jack it in. Yeah? The same as any other job. And it's that internal motivation, that internal fire that keeps you coming back and keeps you working. And finally, you should do it if you think you genuinely have something different to offer. One of the things that is often said, about our sabbatical team, and about the union as a whole as well. It's just sportsmen who like to drink. And that's absolute rubbish. If you look at how many different people get involved in the union at different positions, whether that's through programme reps, whether it's through volunteering, whether it's through clubs and society generally, people who work for us, there's an absolute range of different students who are getting engaged. But often it's thought, well, if I'm running against a sportsman who likes to drink, I won't get in. That's rubbish. It's no good for the union if we keep getting the same people from the same backgrounds coming through all the time, because actually we don't change. The same things continue to happen year on year. And actually the university is about to go through a major change process. You know, the landscape of higher education is going to change fundamentally in the, not next year, but the year after. Fees are going to shoot right up. Students' expectations are going to shoot right up. The university has a new strategic plan that it's drawing up at the moment where they have an ambition of wanting to grow international student numbers by over 1,000. That's going to really, really change the demographics on campus, you know, and the way that people interact with us. So what we want is people who are coming in from different backgrounds. Or, if you're not coming in from a different background, that openness, that willingness to, as I said before, go to those hard-to-reach groups and find out exactly what it is that they want, rather than just sitting with your friends and saying the things that they say and bringing them back and doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah? Don't refer to sabbatical. As I said, I want it to be quite clear in this, and I'm not trying to dissuade anyone. I just want people to actually think, look, am I running for this for the right reasons? Don't run for sabbatical for your personal agenda, yeah? Because it's not about you, and it's not about your opinions. Yeah? You're essentially a whole vessel. Now that's not true, because obviously you bring all of your bias and your experience to the table, and your skills and your knowledge. But if you think one thing, and you talk to your students, and they think something completely different, and the majority of you is completely different, that's what you have to represent. And if you've got a personal agenda, and you're trying to address that agenda, and that comes into conflict with your students, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to follow that agenda, and you're going to make sure that the union is completely alien to those people and unrepresentative, which damages our reputation alongside the university, or you're going to become incredibly frustrated that nobody else agrees with you, and you're going to hate your job, and you're going to want to quit. Yeah? Don't just do it if you want to stay at St John's for another year. Yeah? The job is hard. You know, it is hard, and there are times when you won't like it. There is a burden of workload which you cannot avoid. No matter which position you are in, there are things that you have to do, and in some of those positions, that workload is even heavier. So no matter coming in, if you're coming in going, yeah, I'm just going to toss it off this year, just going to hang around, get my VIP cards, got clubbing a lot, you're still going to have tons and tons of work to do because it's already set, it's already there. There are university meetings that you need to go to, there are things in the community that you need to set up, there are projects that are running that need your opinion. And you'll just, again, you'll get really frustrated. If you do come in there as well, and then you try not to do anything as well, all you do is you damage our reputation as a union. So that means that you don't really like the union, so why would you want to come and work for us? If what you want to do is damage the reputation of the university. If you don't know what else to do with your life, don't just think, oh, well, I'll do this for a year. Because all you're doing is putting off knowing what you want to do with your life for another year. You'd be better off going and travelling around India or working at home in Morrison's or whatever else it might be than running for this election, getting in, and then spending a year where you're just putting it on hold, and then the year after you're just putting it on hold. You should have it as that you might not know exactly what you want to do with your life, but actually this is going to help me get to where I want to be, whether that's through having additional experience in a particular field, or whether it's just through having all this other stuff that you get as a trustee and representative, this extra responsibility and the experience of looking at budgets and finances and working with management at a high level. Yeah? But don't just do it because you don't know what to do or what else to do. And finally, if you are looking for fame and prestige, this is not the job for you. Yeah? Because, yeah, you will end up being you will end up being a minor celebrity potentially. You know, there's nothing better than being a big fish in a small pond. That's what your eyes are about to do. But no matter how well known you ever get, there will still be students who don't know you well. And I'm sure Lee can, if you ask him afterwards, will tell you his story about the VC's initiative in the rowing club. You know, which is a good example. Yeah? A lot of the time, as well, you don't get any credit for the work that you've done. A lot of students won't know what it is that you've done to change the stuff, and they won't say thank you, and they won't care, and they'll tell you that you're crap at your job and you need to bullshit and all the rest of it. Yeah? So if you need that kind of, hey, I need to be on a pedestal and be king of a mountain, this isn't the job for you either. Yeah? Although there will be a bit of that, to say, big fish, small pond, small pond. Okay. Are there any questions on any of that? Have I put anybody on? Good. Because that was what I was going to. Yeah, I'm off now. See you. Oh, God. So it's like I'm working more. Okay, what I wanted to do for this next bit is I'm just going to split you up into 3 small groups. Around the room, you'll see that there's sheets of paper with pens, and the group over there is going to write President at the top, the group over there is going to write VP Education and Welfare, and the group over there is going to write VP Student Activities. What I'm going to get you to do is write down what you think each of those roles involves. 3 groups will have 3 minutes, and I'll time it to come up with those things, and I'll ask you to move around so everybody's got a chance to look at each different sheet. Thank you for doing that for me. What we're going to do now is, what I want you to do is, whoever's got the President's sheet, just put their hand up. Could you just read out what it says on the President's sheet?
Okay. President. Main representative for students, link between SU and the Vice Chancellor, role model for students, voice of student opinion and act on them, budget and finance setting and directing, discipline, misbehaving students, represent students in the wider community and trustee, media representative, hiring senior members of staff, attending and feeding back on committees, provide permission to film in the SU, chair a committee, finance, staffing, etc. Final vote, coordinate democracy, national voice for YSU, a key holder, set UC agenda with the chair, publicise the junior activities and what they have done, mentor junior councillors, chair the SUSLT, lead national protest for YSU, main contact for anywhere, and returning officer for Sabbatical elections.
Do you want to come to the quickly and tell them if that's a good indication of what it is, and also what day in your life's like?
Yeah, most of that's actually quite correct. Quite a lot of that stuff, bits and bobs of it, a little bit grey areas in terms of actually what happens and what you actually do. I'll just give you a typical day. I'm here tomorrow, for an example. I'm going to get up tomorrow. I go into work for 9 o'clock, and through the entire day tomorrow, I've got a 3.5-hour meeting, followed by a 2.5-hour meeting, followed by a 4.5-hour meeting. That's all in one day. So, in with that, and these are meetings you've got to go to, very, very important ones, Quality Student Enhancement Committee, things like Academic Board, then I've got a Finance Committee meeting, and then after that I'll be going towards the community group, and what they'll be doing there is it's something about with local residents, and they all get together in a local war committee and they talk about agendas, they talk about student issues, housing issues, parking issues, a lot of things to do with that. And obviously with me being there, if there's going to be any volunteering opportunities that are coming up, and if there's anything that we need to be worried about, or if we need to look at it, if we can help the local residents with, and also at the same time change their perceptions as to what students actually do. So this is all those different type of things that I'll be doing tomorrow. Along with that as well, I've got to get my dinner in there. I've got to get, obviously I've got my own remit as well, so you know, like there's things that you set for your agenda, and there's emails that you get from people. So I may, tonight, somebody may misbehave, and then I've got to do things like disciplinaries. I've got to try and get students in as soon as possible. It may not happen tomorrow, but maybe the students want the opportunity to come and see me, so I've got to try and find a half an hour block for that.
Probably Thursday mornings.
Thursday mornings are especially a busy day. But yeah, so I've got to do things like that. At the same time, I've got to mentor union councillors. I've got to set agendas and actually make sure that everything's going to be on there. I have a meeting with Andy, so I have to do my own one-to-ones. And like I say, sometimes I don't get the office till 10 o'clock at night. I'll be doing things like this, so quite a lot of the time I'll be going down to, I go down to London, conferences, which sometimes lasts from anything from half a day to 3 days. So you know, you get to London quite a bit, and as much as you think it's exciting to go down to London, you've got your suitcase and you've got to get on the tube and you've got to go to the other side of London, and then you've got to get ready, you've got to get changed, have some dinner, and then all the time just networking and you know, it's constantly talking, and you don't realise how mentally tiring it is. And then when you go back to bed, everybody also on a social drink, so you have a social drink, you stay out because you're all chatting about different policies. So you know, you've got all these different things like that. You get to bed late, then you get up early first thing in the morning. You've got another 10-hour day where you are literally sat in a room with people talking to you. Then you go for your food, you have a little bit more talk about what's happening through the day, and then you go home, and then it's the train, which is a nice good journey, and obviously you've got to travel back to where you're going from there. So that's just a very quick understanding of what's happening. Also, one of the things that I'm doing this year, along with the Union Council, is we're changing the democratic structure. So you look at things like that, and obviously there's little things and bits and bobs of change. One of the massive things that happens is obviously the education cuts. Obviously nobody was expecting so severe cuts, and obviously quite a lot of students at Yorkshire don't feel passionate about this enough to come to me and say to me, right, we're going to go down to London and march with this. So I went out there and I had to go and talk to students, and to make sure that students were going and wanting to come, then I had to make sure that the coaches were booked, that the insurance was okay, that the right number of people were coming, then I had to get money off of them for that, and then I had to make sure that money was put into an account, and then I had to do fundraising, because we didn't have a lot of money anyway in this campaign budget, because it's something that we didn't budget for. Then I had to obviously go around and make sure that nobody else wanted to come. We had a disabled student that wanted to go down, so she couldn't catch the coach, so I had to make sure the train went down there for her. I had to make sure the transport was there for her when she got from London to the march and then backwards again. And these are just like little bits and bobs. And then when you come back and you're working in your office, you have people coming in and out here all the time. And then you're thinking, where am I talking to students? That's the thing that I actually want to be doing. And then you find out that when you're out on a night out, and it's 11:30 at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, you get a phone call at 2:30 in the morning, and it's students in the first year saying, I'm lost, I don't know where I am, can you help me? And you're home in bed, and you know, you feel obliged then to actually go and do these sort of things, and it's all stuff like that. Also, you know, then you've got your strategic plan. Obviously that's the direction that the students are going to move, and that gets reviewed every year. And then you've got to make sure that you're doing all those targets as well. And you've got to make sure that obviously you're hitting all those, and then you've got papers to write for this sort of thing. So it is a very lot of work. People just think you sit in your office or you're having a night out and you're just getting drunk. But I actually see all this behind it. Like, one of the main things that we're trying to do is obviously with this whole international thing, trying to go out there and talk to students, especially international students and part-time students and mature students, because we don't seem to see a lot of those coming into the building. So there's a lot of things that we're doing in our strategic plan to go around building those that they do come into the bar, so it's not just a bar. So we're going to campaign about it's not just a bar, and then you've got to get the idea of that. So there's a lot of stuff that you carry on with throughout the day, and it takes a lot of strain on you. Like I've lost a lot of friends through it, you know, from disciplinaries and things like that. There's people who look at you in a different way, and when you sat there at the end of the bar, and you know, like you just wanted to get a drink at the end of your shift, and like, you've got some student coming up to you, telling you that it's not fair what you've done because I'm the person who's done it to them, and I'm the person who's disciplined them, and they don't realise there's a whole lot of rules and procedures behind it that I've got to, at the end of the day, do my job. It doesn't matter who the student is, you know, it could be my best friend, you know, it's these sort of things. It got to the point at Christmas, and I'm sure other sabbaticals in the past and present will portray it. I nearly ended up going to the doctor because you know, you feel let down sometimes when it gets to that point. But you just got to think about what you're in it for and what your passion is. And then you just got to pick yourself back up, relax over Christmas, and come back spanking new. And that's pretty much how it goes. And it's just like that constantly all the time. You have your ups, and when they're up, oh my God, you know, you feel like the best person in the world. You think you're absolutely amazing, but you know, at the same time, you get to another down, and you know, you got people around you to support you and pick you up. And it's just to make sure that you know what you're laying in for. I won't lie to you, I didn't know that I was going to be a trustee. I didn't know the full remit as to what I was going to have to do. I didn't realise that I was going to be sat in meetings for most of my time. I thought I was going to be out there talking to students, like I'm a very outgoing person. I like talking to students. I like going out there getting people's opinions. I like having a chat to people. I like being a little bit cheeky. You know, I'm trying to get people in, on board, and just knowing I'm an approachable person. So if they have any issues, they can come and talk to me. But it's just not always that easy. So you find out that your social life ends up being overtaken by the stuff you actually want to do in it. But after all that, and as much as that sounds like a really downer, I absolutely love it. Right, it's the best thing I've ever done. Right, the experiences that I gained from it, going down and going to London and Manchester and travelling over England, right, seeing hotels. I've never slept in so many hotels in my life, right? But the people that you get to meet and the opportunities that you get to see, and the people that are very important in Britain, right, and in the world. Right? I'll never possibly get that opportunity ever again. And it's all these things that when you're there and when you're out and you're down, pick you back up, and that's what you think, man, that's what I'm here for me to do. So.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to do a Q&A at the end, so general questions. So we'll just roll on and go on to the next one, which is what being Vice President of Education and Welfare involves. Unfortunately, David Rose isn't here. But before I was General Manager and back in the business time, I was a Vice President of Education and Welfare. So I'm going to present this part after the group has said what they're thinking.
Got some men's IUA counsellors, deal with appeals, deal with welfare and education campaigns, include finding and resolving student issues, looking after minority groups, supplying condoms and chlamydia tests apparently. Attending university committees, talking to students, representing student views locally and nationally, coordinate
National Student Survey.
National Student Survey. I'm not good with that. Trustee.
And all that shares.
And all that
shares.
Supply student sympathy, wellbeing events, lots of paperwork. Deals with mental and sexual health and program reference system.
Yeah, again, that's another good list of coverage. The education and welfare role is often thought of as the kind of fluffy bunny role, in that you'll have your president, he'll be your figurehead, and you'll have your VPSA, and they'll be about having fun and let's park and all this, and then you've got this kind of very lovely, soothing person who goes around soothing students and making them feel a lot better. And I think for that reason, it's often seen as a role that is done by women. The last 7 years, I think, 9 years, the education and welfare role has been taken up by a female student, which is actually a nonsense, because it's not a part of the role, a key part of the role. You have to be a woman to do the work of education and welfare officer. It does break down into those two distinct parts, the education and the welfare side. Actually, on the welfare side, we have quite a lot of resources in the university already. The university's student support team and the finance and welfare team actually grew out of the students' union and was established by a previous education and welfare officer. There was a welfare service that we were running internally that they then developed and has now grown into this huge team under the university. So a lot of that kind of generalist welfare advice and support isn't really done by the union. We tend to be more the signposts. If we have students who are coming and are in distress, then we will comfort them and we won't just say, okay, go off over there, because that's not what we're about. And Katie will have to deal with individual cases of people doing that. But she's not a counsellor, and we're very clear that they're not a counsellor. They're not there to do that kind of emotional and mental support for people. There are other services that are better placed where people are properly qualified to do that work. What they will do around welfare stuff is they will run campaigns. So some of the things you mentioned around sexual health, particularly around anti-smoking, around drinking and healthy lifestyles. We run a campaign called Happy Campus, which we run in the third semester around exam times, which is all to do with mental health and people feeling good and that is the responsibility of the Education and Welfare Officer. It's also covering things like money awareness and housing. The campaign which is going on at the moment around housing is employees' auspices. So running those actual campaigns, organising those, coming up with things that students actually want us to campaign on, and then putting those together is in there. A lot of Kate's job, even more so than the president's job, is either desk-based, in that they're behind their desk in front of their computer in the office, or meeting-based, in that they're either meeting with students individually, or they're in university meetings, and that same kind of academic board, college student enhancement committee, financial assistance group, a whole variety of different university committees Katie has to sit on and provide students' opinions. The education side of the job means that they do support programme rep structure, and they have to gather opinions. So we spend a lot of time talking to deputy deans, faculty reps, trying to bring out those issues and put them back into the actual faculties to make sure that changes actually come as a result of those. And that's easier in some than in others. The relationships have developed over the years in the students' unions so that certain faculties are really proactively engaging with the unions, and others not so much, because they worry about what our role is, whether we're just there to be a big stick to beat them with. And actually that's not really what we all do. So Kate spent an awful lot of time doing that. As we said, sample day, the last few days, Katie, and I include the weekend on this date, was putting together the student written submission for the Quality Assessment Agency. We're going to, Youngster John's going to go through an institutional audit this year, which basically means that an external body comes and looks at the quality of academic standards, and the quality of the student experience, and gives the university a grade, gives them a mark on that. And as part of that, we as a union had to put together a student written submission. It was Kate's responsibility to ensure that all of that came together. So actually polishing that document and making sure that it was saying exactly what we wanted it to say. 28 pages of charts and comments and conclusions and various things. It's a great document. Really good. I'm really pleased with it. But it is that kind of tense role sometimes, and the education welfare officer will often have to be telling senior academics, people who are often seen as much more worldly wise or experienced or responsible than them, that they're wrong, and that what they're doing is wrong, and that what they have been doing for a number of years is wrong, and that they need to change it because their students are saying that they need to change it. And that can be very, very tough. It's a mentally draining role, an incredibly mentally draining role, and particularly when you're dealing with things like student appeals, when you have students coming into you who are basically saying, I've destroyed my future. You know, I've not got the degree that I wanted, I've failed, now I can't go and do this professional practice course that I wanted to do, and they're sat in your office crying and you're passing them tissues, and you're saying, I'm going to try and help you solve this. It's incredibly, incredibly mentally taxing. As Lisa know, it can also be a massive high when you actually go along and you represent them at a university appeal, and they get the second chance. You know, they get back on the course and they get the higher grade, they're not thrown off. It's, that it can be a wonderfully, wonderfully rewarding job, but it is tough. And actually getting out to talk to students can be very difficult, and that's why that person relies on the team of programme reps, the union councils who are associated with them, particularly around liberation style work, around LGBT work, and international students in various other areas. They rely on that. So that's education and welfare in a nutshell. Could we look at student activities, please?
They mentor and look after sports societies, volunteering, events and sport and RAG, relevant committees, chair SMS committee and events for sports societies, mentor union counsellors, communicating with students on what they need. They work with books through representation and organisation and varsity or Johns. Help set budgets for sports and stocks. Should be involved in protests and demos. Coordinate with uni student interests. Trustee and freshers and refreshers.
Okay. And Jason Chandler, would you like to come to the front and tell people what it's like?
Yeah. Vice President student activities. I think one of the main things, a lot of people think it's very operational. So in terms of you organise freshers, summer ball, which can actually get mentioned on there, which is a bit of a surprise. You just lied to me. Refreshers and so on. But obviously, with all three sabbatical positions, you're trying to be a representative, and essentially you are a student representative. So a lot of you might think VPSA is about doing these operational things, but it's not. This is why you be bar manager and your commercial service manager to help you, as well as people like James Harley, sports science coordinator, and Joe Finnan, the opportunity coordinator, who helps with volunteering. But to give you an overview, I think you pretty much mentioned all the things you cover. So there's volunteering, RAG, sports societies, and a lot of you I think will think sports societies is the dominant one, and entertainment as well. Another thing that doesn't really get mentioned as much is fundraising seems to come a lot to it. So I'll get quite a few students saying, how do I fundraise, how can I do this, how can I do that? And basically, a lot of it will be giving out advice to students. So a lot of people, like, I get a question, I know Lee mentioned it earlier, the same question, what do you actually do? People will question me, what do you actually do? And silly as it sounds, a lot of it, you might just be at your desk typing emails, responding to students, telling them where to go, what to do, how to go about certain things. The questions, they really do range and get all sorts. A lot of it, VPSA, like some people sort of get the impression, it does get called the fun one every now and then, but there is a lot to it. A good example would be VPSA. You probably wouldn't associate this. There was one day when there was a speech in York. It was when the cuts were, I think it was the day the cuts were decided actually. Lee couldn't go down and couldn't do it, so I went to York and ended up doing a speech in front of quite a large number of people about the cuts. And although I think from an outside view you think Lee deals with all that, there was, there's parts where as a free we've got to work really tight together and understand it all together. So what we've just said about VPEW and what we said about President, all three of us actually have to have knowledge about all three like each other's roles. So I think that's one of the main things. Don't think you'll be going into VPSA just to do ends, things to do with sports societies, because there'll be more to it. I know someone put on there something about going to demos and protests. Like an example would be, I've been to them only on one occasion that day when the cuts came in, whereas Lee has dominantly met with it, but as a free, that's what you try and do, try and work together. Easier said than done, as proved at times this year, and I'm sure it is every year. Moving more back onto my role, and just giving you a broader idea that isn't just about sports societies and so on. There is a lot in terms of offering advice. Give an example, I won't go into details, but a person who maybe knows you better or associates themselves more with you better from a sports society might come to you about an educational welfare issue. So I know a student at the sports team came to me about what was an educational welfare issue, basically because I'm more seen as a figurehead because of sports and societies. So there is a lot more to it into that account. But VPSA, I like to think it is the fun one, so take that on board. You do have a great time, and if you are passionate about all these things, so you can't just say sports societies, it's got to be the entertainment, the fundraising, the volunteering, you've got to have an interest in all. One of the big things I've learned this year, and I won't lie, about this time last year, I was interested in VPSA because I was interested in sports, societies, the big events such as Summer Ball, but you've got to take a lot more on board, and the great thing about VPSA, it will open your mind, will make you think out of the box. You've got to be open-minded with the job, so you can't just concentrate on your things that you prefer. There's a lot of times this year where I've had to work on things where I don't really have an interest in, but that's all part of the role, and at the end of the day, the great point earlier, you are a student representative. So if there's something you don't agree with, but the students want that, at the end of the day you've got to represent the students. So the personal agenda thing is a huge thing, just cancel that out, don't do it for your own reasons, VPSA, and basically make a broad mind of it. I think one of the great things about VPSA, I'll give you an example, try and give you an example. You can't, we're trying to do a life in a day of VPSA, you can't really do that, because the great thing about VPSA, it's different every day. So, I'll go with tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'll get into work. First thing is normally emails. Have a sit down on my computer, look at the emails. More than likely there will be emails coming overnight. There'll be some to respond from the end of today. Try and respond to them. Being a Wednesday of all days, it is a sports and societies day. So what will happen, I'll be doing my emails throughout the morning. There could be a meeting in the morning. The meetings can range, just to give you an idea. I go to wellbeing meetings, which you won't really associate with sports societies, and I do that rather than occasionally. So that just gives you an idea of wellbeing, which you wouldn't associate with sports societies. A good chance I could have one of those tomorrow, or any of the meetings can range right across the board. Wednesday afternoon I'd go probably view the sports and society and speak to students there. One of the main things you've got to do is VPSA, and one of the things, well, with all sabbaticals, you've really got to go out there and speak to students. So tomorrow afternoon I'd go and view sports society and make sure when I'm there I'm talking to people, gathering their opinions and getting the feedback. Because at the end of the day, being a student representative, we want your feedback so we can change things and get things the right way. Another day could be a matter of just take Monday morning. This could be, like I say, every Monday can change. First thing you can do could be something called SAD team, where as a free, we'll get together and we'll share what we're going to do that week, so we have an understanding of what we're going to do. And we understand what we're doing with each other, because it's important as a free, we are united out there, and everyone understands what we're doing, and we're not contradicting each other at any point. After that can move straight on to a meeting. It could be somebody coming in about fundraising, wanting to do some fundraising with the Students' Union. There could be a meeting with them. After that, it could be a little bit of emails. After that, it could be going down, doing you might have a committee meeting, for example. So you oversee quite a few different committees. So you may have an ENTS committee meeting. There, obviously, you'll speak about entertainment, how you can help the students with entertainment, and gather the feedback from them. So the idea is to try and probe people in that meeting and try and get what they want out of it and suggest ideas. That can then go into another meeting, like it could be a sports and societies committee meeting, and speaking to them about sports and societies, and the same thing as the ENTS meeting, getting different opinions, and making sure, one of the biggest things, is like I keep saying, is getting the opinions of the students. But that could be a day. Just to give you an idea, it could be, another meeting might be a meeting with the SUSLT, so Student Union and Senior Leadership Team, so that could be the senior people from the university. And that's where, you're not just concentrating on sports societies, that's where you're talking about various different things and you're representing the students. So, I think you've probably got the idea from what we've been through already, but when you do these roles, there's so much more than meets the eye. You've got to coordinate things through a lot of different things, and we have SAD team basically so we know what we're all doing, because it's so easy, like during a day, just to go off. I could be typing away on my computer, Lee could be at his, Kate could be doing her, we won't be telling each other what we're doing, we're going off doing our own things, but we are student representatives, so it's important we all know what we're doing. So it is a big thing. One of the big things is to work together as a free and understand what each other's roles are. But VPSA, like I keep saying, it is being open-minded. Don't just think you are overseeing sports societies, entertainment, volunteering, rather than fundraising, because there is more to it. But obviously student activities, that is a big part of your role. But it's a great job to have, and you're going to go to it next year. All the best. So this is a great role to have, and don't just be out there, don't regret it one bit. Brilliant job, and you learn so much from it, and hopefully I'll have a better job next year through doing VPSA and without having VPSA.
Good. Thank you very much, Jason. Okay, you've heard from two of the officers, and myself, pretending to be getting on. What we want to do now is just if there are any questions that anybody has from our sabbaticals, or to our sabbaticals on the work that they do, if you'd like to just shout them out or
give you good proper honest answers. So.
Katie?
For you, when would you say the job actually began for you?
For me?
Well, for both.
When you go through the job begins, right, when you put that very first pen to paper, when you're writing the manifesto. Because as soon as you realise you're going to go for the job and you're going to, you're doing a run for it, and you're looking at what you're going to put down for your objectives and what you believe in, 100 words, you really got to think straight from day one what it's all going to be about. And obviously when you're going through And if you get to the point where you do, you know, get accepted and you do win to be, you know, a sabbatical, you've still got your degrees to finish and things like that, but you can't help but think, and you get ideas in your head as to what you'd like to do, what's going to happen, and it does kind of overtake your degree to some extent, and you know, you're that excited about starting, and you just want to get there, you just want to get involved. And that's kind of when it starts, and then obviously you go through the summertime, you've got loads of training, you go through, I think it's called active political leadership, and you talk about how public speaking works, body language, and you go through like meetings, so how meetings work, what they actually mean when they say this thing and when they say that thing, you know, and how to go about politically going about making change for what you know, for your institution. So it kind of begins from there, and obviously when you get into it all the way through the summer, your meetings at university still carry on. So it's as though you've never left, but you're brand new to the position. So when you sat there, you know, like you kind of got to read all your papers, and you know, you're going to make sure that you know what's happening or know what's happening, because you may ask a question from someone about something that you know the previous person to you really doing. So, but yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fairly similar. My point of view, good point you made is when as soon as you actually start doing your campaigning or from the very start, because a good example for me would have been one afternoon, I think, where we finished our dissertations and handed them in, started drinking, and then the group of people I were with were starting being a bit rowdy, so I thought to myself, right, because of my new role coming in, I had to move away from these people, so I wasn't associated and looking in a bad way. I was always like, as soon as I got the role, I tried to be more careful about, you know, people's perceptions of me and the way I spoke to people and how I was. So you just got to be careful with exactly how you go about your behaviour. So in that way, your role starts straight away. But like Lee said, you go. There's like strange. You don't leave York syndrome. It's weird because everyone goes home. But you're still here because you pretty much kick in as soon as the students have left, and you go through loads of training. So you have a lot of time away. And that's when you learn a hell of a lot during that period. And I was thinking to myself during all that training, because there's quite a lot of training, I was thinking, when do I can actually crack on and start, you know, looking into fresher stuff. And then eventually you get back, and I suppose in a way when you finish all your training and you are sat down, starting to organise things, and sort of felt started in a way then. Ultimately you do start it as soon as you start campaigning, because from that week you're careful about you're careful about everyone's perceptions of you. You're making sure you're trying to keep to you know what you actually say. One of my manifesto is trying to actually keep to what I say. So I know a lot of people just write garbage and hope they get votes, but it's good. But best to be honest.
I just need to also watch in.
Yep.
Yeah.
No questions.
Any other questions? Don't really have to.
We'll cut the answers down if you want. We won't leave you to speak for 5 minutes per answer.
The thing to say is that basically this is just the start. I mean, obviously nominations don't open for another 2 weeks yet. But what we wanted to do is make sure that if there are people who are looking at sabbatical roles in the future, obviously you can question the sabbaticals now. You can come and question the staff and start asking, you know, what is it this is like? Really, what is it that you do? From my point of view as general manager, I would rather that people were coming through the door having a good knowledge for stuff that they're going to be taking on, because it just means that you're one step ahead. You know, it means that actually you can drive more and you can get your foot down a lot quicker, because we don't have to tell you some of the basics of the role, or some of the things, you know, break down some of your preconceptions of what the role might actually be, what the role actually is. So do come and question us, do come and ask.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I just give you my actual day tomorrow. That's what, like on Thursday, I've got pretty much the same day, so it's the Holocaust Memorial Day. So I will finish from that until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. You know, it's just going out there and being in the community and you know, face to face. I wasn't saying just to scare people. You know, it's just these are all the things that actually happen, and it's if you're not going to be
if that scares you, then you know you just need to really think about what it is that that's going to carry you on through it. And you know, it's not, like I say, it's not always like that. You know, sometimes I sit in my office and I think, plastic pans and Jason like office, and you know it can get like that sometimes. But the best thing I think that I could possibly say is that we're always like, oh yeah, all the way through something like variance, and you're like, right, so now we need these students. But then as soon as students come back, like, I think that compared to your election week, the first week that students come back is the hardest week. Because obviously we're that excited that we just want to shoot straight off and just get on everything. But like I say, at the same time, something like election week, you're out all the time and you know, you're having a good night and you know, you essentially you get more work all through the day, so it's fun.
Okay, any other questions? Right, we'll close it there. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.